Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I'm the director of the Cyber Education and Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Grow West, the Technology Council West Kentucky, KY Innovation, and local partner Sprocket Innovation in Paducah, and the Kentucky Innovation Station in Madisonville. And welcome back to episode 195 on this rainy, wet Friday. Today is one of those days that we want to look at some of the headlines of the day, see what we can learn, see how we can use these headlines to make our organizations safer, our families safer, and make our cyberspace hopefully a little more enjoyable so that maybe we don't become one of those victims. But I want to go through some things today. Some of these things are things that we've talked about before, but should be reiterated today because I think they're really important to note. First one, NIST has proposed some new rules on passwords. Some of this has to do not with the users creating the passwords, but the organizations that are enforcing the passwords. But I want to go through, and I'm not going to list all of these things, but a couple of things that we've talked about in the past that should be reiterated today with this article is that it's not always about the complexity, meaning for years and years and years, we were told that our passwords needed to be at least 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, special character number, all those different things. And that we had to change them sometimes some organizations, it's every 60 or 90 days or 3 months, or maybe it's 6 months. What these rules are saying, or what we know, is that first of all, longer is better. And actually this suggest that require passwords to be at least 8, but recommend essentially 15 characters in length to be the minimal. So it's really bumping it up. If you do a passphrase, something that's longer than a password, then things are going to be a lot more secure, and that's what it's suggesting. One of the other things that it's suggesting, and again, this is something that we've talked about, is you don't really need to change your password unless you're the victim of a data breach. If you've been the victim of a data breach, if your password was in a hack, then yes, you need to change your password. If not, you're probably okay. The changing your password every few months or every few weeks makes it harder for you to remember your password, so you're more likely to write it down. If we expand that out so that it is a longer, more secure password, then we really don't need to change it as often. And really, it's going to be if it has been seen in a data breach. And the reason that's important, and we've talked about this before, sometimes passwords are stored in an insecure way, so that's a problem. Sometimes passwords are, you can use a thing called pass the hash, and it's a way to attack your password. Point is, if you have a strong password that is not used anywhere else, and that's a key piece, then you're probably going to be okay unless there's a password database breach. So that's the first thing. Speaking of breaches, some time ago we talked about the national public data breach, where several million, hundreds of millions of Americans had data stolen. Well, it looks like that has happened again, and this time it is the MC2 is the group that it's called, and there's been 106,000 records stolen, and that has everything from names and contact information, addresses, property records, a lot of information. There's a very good chance that you have been the victim of this breach again. That's what, a third of Americans, and take kids out of it because they probably don't have some of the background searches that this company does. You've got some major risk of having data compromised. Now, what do? We talked about what do you do a few weeks ago. I'd recommend that you go back and watch that episode. But certainly know that there's a good chance that this breach happened back in August. So it's just now being reported, but there's a good chance that you were a victim of it. There will be more details to come out to find out if you were a victim of it and what to do if you were. But just know that that's coming up and could have a large impact on folks. This article, I bring it up because I think there's a couple things that are interesting about it. 11 million devices were infected with a botnet malware through Google Play Store. And what I mean by that is that we have made the decisions in our mind, right, wrong, or indifferent, that if I download something from the App Store, whether it's the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, that everything's fine and dandy, that it's secure, it's safe, I don't have to worry about things, we're all good, nothing to see here. Well, the reality is that's not the case. The reality is that we need to be mindful all the time. This was something that infected the Google Play Store back in 2019, and it has recently returned. It's something that the bad guys, in this case, I think it's connected to a Russian, Russian researchers found it. We have to be on alert always for what's going on. There is always a risk of, if you download a piece of software to your computer or to your tablet or to your phone, that it could be infected with something that you don't want to have on your computer. You just have to be alert. Now, how do you know this? Well, a lot of security people will say the Apple App Store is a little more secure than the Android, the Google Play Store. Is that true? I think probably. I don't know that for fact, but it doesn't matter which store that you're using. What you really need to do is just think about, if there's only 5 people that have reviewed this, is that really something that you want to download? Or even if a bunch of people have reviewed it, are the reviews real? Can you tell if they're real? I'm not saying that there's some single step that you can take and know that something's good or bad, but there's certainly some things that you can do to minimize your risk. So I recommend that you do some of those things. One of the things I thought interesting is, Microsoft has had some security incidents over the last year. They are rebooting their security culture, adding some cybersecurity governance to their internal team, requiring additional staff trainings, bringing on some deputy CISOs, doing a lot of things. And I bring all this up to say, I was a student at Purdue, 20 some odd years ago. And at that time, they were starting what was called a trustworthy computing initiative to really instill security. And Microsoft, it's a massive company, which makes them a massive target, but they have focused on security for decades, yet they're still emphasizing and increasing that awareness. If Microsoft, who's been doing this for 20 some odd years, is focusing on it, what does that say about your company that maybe has only been doing it for a year or 2 or 5? Or is it continuing to be an emphasis, or is it just something that you said, okay, I did it, check the box, now I am good to go and I don't have to do anything else? Security is not a check the box, we're done and move on. Security has to be something that is top of mind every day, every week, every year on a recurring basis. It's not something that we can do once and go away. If we get complacent, that's when problems happen. Actually, going back to this data breach, the MC2 breach, what I have been told is that, or what I've read, I haven't been told anything, what I read was it's because the data was not being stored in a secure way using industry best practices. They got complacent. The database managers did not do what their job was. So that's going to be very large financial loss for them, not just because of the breach, but because it appears, at least on the surface, that it was their fault. They should have done better. They should have known better. So what does that mean for you? How are you doing things? How are you staying secure? Even after all this time, what are you doing to make sure that you're following the best practices? Always be top of mind. It should always be top of mind. But anyway, all right, that's all the time we have for today. If you have questions, please let me know. I appreciate your time and following along. Please reach out to me if you have questions or suggestions for topics. I'd be happy to cover those in a future episode. Thank you for joining in, and I'll see you next week back here on 10 to 10. Thank you. Bye.